Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Yes, we are here once again for the next episode of A Conversation with Kelly. Episode, who knows at this point. We will get into what we're doing in a little bit, even though you know what we're doing. But I am here, my loving beautiful co-host, Allie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I went for a walk today and it's snowing today, so that's
Oh, that's
fun.
fun. We love the
But it's
snow.
not super cold out though.
Yeah.
But anyway, overall just having a pretty chill day, enjoying my last day off of work before this weekend, and then just org stuff today and then seeing the Marvels tonight.
All right. I mean, I haven't been doing too much either. I've kind of just been chilling. I did go for a walk earlier as well. And yeah, other than that, not really much to talk about or stuff on my end as well. But yeah, support Into the Woods on Facebook. If you're watching, you're definitely watching for sure. But yeah, Survivor 45, still very much a thing. But unfortunately, because mainly of like Big Brother and other stuff, we just have not been able to caught up. So we are 2 episodes behind, and there's a new episode tonight. So we probably should go ahead and do a podcast.
Yeah, we've been
For
so busy with like work and orgs and stuff, so we've just had
yeah.
like no time to do them yet.
Yeah, but before we do jump into all of that, Allie, just brief thoughts on what you thought of both of these episodes overall.
I thought they were really strong so far.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, this season's been shaping up to be a really, really good. And like, I like everybody. I don't dislike
Yeah,
anyone, and they're all
me
playing
too.
really hard. The only thing I would say is this, like last week's, it just didn't have to be as long.
Yeah, I think again, I've been very pro 90-minute episodes all season, and I think it
Same.
definitely pays off having the
Oh yeah.
merge now, getting to see all these little seeds that they planted throughout the season, seeing those sown throughout, and seeing how that finally comes to fruition. I think they did such a great job here. This first episode in particular we're talking about for me is like top tier Survivor. I'm
Oh yeah.
really loving it a lot. I can't wait to see where else it ends up, where else this season ends up going. If
Hell
they're
yeah.
able to continue the momentum that they're on, for me, this will be like a top tier season, but we
Oh
will
yeah,
have to
because yeah, like
um,
besides, like I've been like really here for these longer episodes, but yeah,
yes.
we definitely
And,
felt the
and we do want to say they have officially confirmed that that is continuing next season. So we're
Woo!
very happy about that.
So good, so good, so glad. But yeah, we definitely felt the link with last week. So
Yeah, for sure. But we're gonna go ahead and get into episode 6, which, like I said, to me, this is like I think when we talk about merge episodes of Survivor, this is going to be one of the first ones we talk about because this is like everything you hope for in a merge episode. Um,
okay,
but of course, we start with a post-tribal of Bello, which we get a lot more time focused on before the merge because, again, they have that 90-minute episode, so they have more time to like set things up here.
yeah,
We see, this is of course after Brando has been voted out, which I know feels like forever ago, but Kendra and Drew are happy to have survived. Emily tells Kendra that she thinks they did talk about telling her, and the only fear was it got back to Brando that he'd play his shot in the dark, which Kendra understands. And Emily tells her that she knows it's not what she expected, and she feels terrible for lying to her. And Kendra assures her that she wants to work with them moving forward. She doesn't want her to feel like she doesn't trust her. And Emily says to not read this as she's on the bottom because that's not what it is at all. And Emily says that she voted with Drew and Austin to get rid of Brando because it's the first time in this game. And she felt like she was being brought in on a team as opposed to being manipulated or dragged along. But her heart goes out to Kendra, who took it very kindly as she expected her to be a bit more upset. And I don't blame Emily for going with Drew and Austin. They extended the hand quicker than Brando and Kendra did. And for all Emily knew, I mean, she goes with Kendra and Brando. They could turn on her like immediately. I think it was smart of her to stick with Drew and Austin
yeah,
here.
because she definitely had more of a connection too, like because they actually brought her in, so her sticking with
Yeah.
Drew and Austin there kind of made sense.
Yeah. So Kendra, meanwhile, is saying that while she feels calm, cool, and collected, she's actually really blindsided and devastated. She wants to get revenge on Emily. There's a part of her day-to-day life that she doesn't really get to use because she lives in karma, but Survivor seems like the perfect place to let the petty side of her out, and she's coming for them. And I'll just be honest, I have no idea how Kendra's going to do in this merge phase. To me, she's like probably the biggest wild card on the board.
Oh yeah, she's literally such a wild card because like I don't know where she's going.
Yeah.
I don't think she's making this to the end, but she's
Yeah.
like she'll be somewhere in jury for sure. But like, I don't know. I could see her getting like a 7th or 8th place, maybe.
Yeah.
Like I could see she's someone I could see going if like they just can't get the target or if they can't get a different target out.
Well, I feel like she's just always on, like, a different page than everybody else, and then they have to,
Yeah.
like, convince her to, like, get on their side, and I just
Yeah.
feel like that's not great at this point in the game. Like, she doesn't have a lot of agency of her own, and when she
Yeah.
does, her agenda is not pushed in the way it needs to be, so, yeah, I
Mhm.
very much worry for Kendra, but, I mean, if she's able to
Same.
get revenge on Emily, great, but just the
Yeah,
way
we'll
they've
see.
been showing Emily, I just feel like Emily's at the end of this game. Like, I just feel like it's gonna
I could
happen,
see it. I could definitely
just
see her
because of,
making
like
it to the end. I could definitely see her making it to the end, but I could also see her, like, maybe getting cut at 4th. I could see her being, like, she loses at
yeah.
fire.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
That
We'll see
could
what
actually
happens
make
there.
sense, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't have a fire and then she loses fire. Yeah, that could make sense if they do that.
Yeah.
But we get to Lulu, but now we do get a little bit with Lulu before we do get into the merge, and Allie's going to talk about that.
Oh, right. Kaleb is looking around with everyone, and he's 99% sure this is where Sabiyah found her first idol, and they could all
Yep.
split up and do left and right later. Bruce spots a leaf, which looks like a place of parchment. Kaleb says he's been building some goodwill with these people since the swap, and now his number one focus is to find the idol. But if he can't find it, he'd rather know who does, and so he wants the rest of his tribe to also be looking. Kelly is unsure where the hidden immunity idols are. She's running into snakes, and she's taken so many. Excuse me. And she's taking so many spider webs right to her face, which is disgusting. That was pretty funny.
That was funny.
While looking around, Bruce appears to find a beware advantage. He opens it up, and it reads that he has found a clue to the immunity idol. And until he has taken possession of the idol, he cannot vote at the tribal council. His idol is buried under the center of his shelter.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time somebody found an idol like literally right before they left the beach, and it makes this like so much more exciting that it happened this way.
Oh yeah, definitely. He immediately starts running around trying to find it, knowing he isn't seeing eye to eye with Katurah, and he wants her to be left out while Kelly is the lookout. She starts coming back, and they tell her they haven't found anything.
Yep. Which, I mean, it's gonna come back to bite. It's gonna come back to bite them. We'll get into it, but this was not good what they did.
No. Jake says if Bruce is unable to find the idol, he is a sitting duck, so he has to help him out, and he creates a diversion that he lost one of his rings in an effort to keep Katurah away.
Again, come back to that because it's gonna be something that's very important a little bit later on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we get to the merge here, and I mean, there's a lot to talk about as usual in a merge episode, but we're just gonna get into it. So basically, a boat arrives. They realize that it likely means they've made it to merge. Jay is very happy to go into the merge, having fresh blood in the game. She's so excited to get to this point in the game. She feels like it's a huge triumph for her. And if this was an adventure, and if this adventure was a song, she would say everything up until this point has been the verse building up the theme and exposition. And the chorus is coming, and it's going to hit. To me, like that sums up this entire episode. Like they've done such a good job of setting up so many potential like rivalries, potential arcs, potential like these are people that might work together. And this is really where like everything's coming together. I feel like Jay summed that up the best overall.
She really did.
Yeah, inadvertently, obviously, but like she summed that up very well here. But Bruce is very happy to be heading to a new home, but also is nervous knowing he doesn't have a vote. He digs into the sand where it could be, and he goes straight down. And he's actually able to find the idol. He's most excited about blowing someone's game up. I thought this was crazy. He literally finds it like right before they're able to head back to the boat.
It was wild.
Yeah, so they all head to the beach after arriving with their boats. New Reba is the first tribe that has arrived. Dee is elated to see Drew and Austin. We were wondering if this 4 was still going to be a thing. very much seems like it's still going to be a thing. She is very much into it, as well as her and Julie. They're very close. And then Drew and Austin, they're the people she's the closest with in the game. She's willing to put anyone else's name out there. And I feel like right now, like this is working for D. I think the four of them are in a really good spot as of right now. I could honestly see, I've said I could see the four of them kind of running things. And I feel like at least for a couple rounds, like they're going to be okay.
I think so too, at least for a bit until like, unless somebody, because spoilers, someone's going to be coming after a couple of them later on.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see them making it at least a little bit farther.
Yeah, so Kaleb can't believe he made it to this beach. He doesn't know what's crazier, being here or being here with his number one ally in Emily, who he is shocked made it this far with how bad she started out, but has really come into her own, and hopefully they can be the swing votes pulled into either Old Bello or Reba. And at this point, I'm like, oh, okay, these two are like the Shannon Ricard kind of, where it's like they're like this unlikely duo that come together and they end up dominating. And spoilers, that's not so much the case, but we'll get into that. So D lets everyone know Reba has a surprise for everyone. They've been able to find fish, which everyone's freaking out about after having starving for days. Kendra is feeling feels everyone's very overwhelmed and trying to meet each other, and she's trying to find her footing. Her people know that she's a full Bello strong person. She's already close with Jake, Katurah, and Kelly. Her and Bruce are also cool, so she's really connecting with Old Bello and giving them information, which is huge in this game. And I mean, Old Bello is so incredibly fractured. Like, it's pretty crazy the way that these people are like, oh, we're Bello strong, but not you. Like, that's what it feels like. It's like they say they're Bello strong, but there's like one person they're all against, and we'll get into that. But it's a very really interesting group. So she pulls Bruce aside, lets him know right off the bat that Emily flipped on her and voted Brando out with the boys. So she is very much playing the game. So Emily feels her position is relatively precarious, as she called out Bruce day one and didn't think twice about the comments that she made. And these comments have now taken a life on their own, almost pitting her and Bruce against each other. And I love this. Like, this is now coming back to haunt her, basically, where it's like, we really see how much Emily's game has now improved, with her realizing, okay, this is something I did wrong. I need to improve that, like I've improved everything else in the game. So he goes to talk to her about it, and she says that she loves to play devil's advocate, and he tells her that she doesn't need to apologize. It's just he sees as this is the game, and what she was saying made sense to her, and that's what she wanted to say. They also talk a little bit about Brando and what really happened there. And while Bruce is saying that she apologized, on the outside, he's saying that she's good, but on the inside, he wants to come after her, and her time is very much coming. So he's very much wanting Emily to go out here. So that's definitely something to look into. So Emily says she thinks her and Bruce can move forward, but just because they can doesn't mean they can move forward into an alliance. They hug and they move on, but in the game of Survivor, it's all about understanding if they can trust one another. And basically, you know, they don't hold grudges. So again, Emily's reads are really good. I will say, I like that she's not trusting towards Bruce here. Like, she's like, okay, he forgave me, but like at what cost? I don't really know if I buy this. Like, I think her reads are honestly rock solid, and I think that's going to take her very far.
I think so too. She's been like really like killing it there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the areas that she probably does the best in. I think, like I said, her reads are just really good. So yeah, basically, Austin is still very upset with Jay for taking his sandwich. He talks to Dee and Julie about how much she wanted to choose strategy. Can I just say, like, I'm sorry, him being mad at her for taking his sandwich is just like classic reality TV, like, messiness. Like, this is exactly the kind
of, it's like the top tier level of petty.
Yeah, like, this is exactly the kind of thing we want to see. I don't want to see people target, like, let's not target people for actual reasons. Let's just take people because they took your sandwich. Like, it's amazing. I love it. Like, give me more of this.
But wouldn't you rather take the strategy too? You want the power.
But I'm hungry. I haven't eaten in 12 days. Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean,
I want that fucking sandwich.
That would be a very hard decision, but also I'd be like, you always want the power. You need it to survive in this game.
Yeah.
So you win, but you also need food too.
Yeah. So Austin says ever since losing the journey, he has been wanting revenge as he wanted that sandwich more than anything in the world. But Jay was adamant about the amulet, and he wants people to know that he's pissed at both Jay and Kelly, and he wants them out. It's better for him, and he finally gets revenge for losing his sandwiches. So he talks to them about how the amulet works and how it can turn to a steal a vote unless he sacrifices his vote. Then it's a full idol. He wants to sacrifice his vote, but in order to do that, they need to bring in the numbers and find a common enemy to vote out. So Drew joins them, and they talk about how Jay needs to go, and it would be an easy way to get the other two tribes on board. So yeah, Reba very much not feeling Jay at this point. They really want her out, and it makes sense. I think she's had a much different agenda than basically everybody else in her tribe, and she hasn't been able to make the connections that they have. So she's probably going to go elsewhere.
Preseason, I thought she was going to be the one of the people who runs her tribe.
Yeah, and instead it was like the complete opposite. But Julie says it should be simple that Reba has 6, but she doesn't think that they are 6 strong. Jay has been on the bottom and will cut them the minute that she can, which I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I do think that I think that 4 is so strong. Like Jay definitely would not be able to break into it, and I think getting her out now is good for sure. So Drew says the core 4 is good because he thinks he's in charge now and he likes to be the leader. They all have the numbers to kind of whittle down some of their first targets in the merge, and he doesn't want this buddy type of meet and greet. So he's ready to just play the game. He's like, I don't want to do all this introduction shit. So while everyone's celebrating for the merge, Austin then talks to Drew about how he wants to get out either Jay or Kelly again, just because he really wanted that sandwich. Like, you have to understand, Allie, that sandwich was everything to him. It's so much was riding out on him eating that sandwich, and he just got it taken away from him.
Why do I feel like he's the kind of person who'd be like, I'm gonna give up all my powers just for the sandwich?
Oh, he would. It'd be so funny. I want to see him do that.
Hilarious.
Please, that'd be so good.
Honestly.
But with that said, I think you are reading some notes now.
All right. So Sifu says he loves the rain, and people think he's a psycho for it. But he's over there screaming at the top of his lungs, and he loves the adversity that it brings. The beginning part of his game was about having fun, but now it's crazy with 13 people at the camp, and it's psychological warfare where they're getting to know each other. They're lovey-dovey until someone comes up silently behind them, or they have some information, which is what they want to know. Sifu, he's entertaining. He's just such a wild card too.
Yeah, I'm on it. If I'm being I'm just really surprised Sifu even made it to the merge, because there were multiple points where it felt like he was gonna go out, and he just kind of feels like that one person where it's like, oh, he's here. I'm so shocked, you know?
Yeah, he was fun to watch, but yeah.
Oh, he was definitely fun to watch. I'm just really shocked.
Same, just because he's just that person who has 9 lives.
Mm-hmm.
So Kaleb asks Emily her impression so far, which she lets him know how she sees divisions on the Reba tribe that she didn't necessarily see on the old Bello tribe, which Kaleb mentions it gives them a better shot of getting in the middle of that. Emily tells him they'll start seeing them as numbers, otherwise they're easy pickings. He asks her if they're still all the way in it to the end, and she says she's never doubted it for 1 second. And he says he trusts her the most. Yeah,
and again, I mean, testament to Kaleb here for how well he's worked on Emily, and the fact that they've been able to work together. They seem like a pretty strong duo at this point, and we'll talk about that later. But right now, it seemed like they were doing pretty good.
Kaleb knows Emily is someone who's trustworthy to him, so that makes her the most valuable person to him right now. She's already in with Reba and worked with them on a vote, and he's been with Bello since the swap, so there's a lot of opportunity for them to get information and play both sides, hopefully without getting caught in the middle.
Yep.
He talks to Sifu about how Bello doesn't care about tribal lines, but then they have to decide who they will be picking off, and he says he doesn't know how close things are. At the Reba still. Austin tells him things have been getting fractured, and at the last tribal, both Dee and Sifu's names came up. Yep. He tells Emily he's in Bello's ear and can use that to triangulate what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean I think Kaleb has played very well to where he has bonds on Reba, but he also has bonds on Bello and can kind of go anywhere at this point. And that's why I thought, like, again, without getting into it, I thought Kaleb had a really strong shot at the merge phase, and well, we'll get into that.
Oh, right.
Also, I'm still here. I'm just switching cameras. You can continue reading notes.
All good. Kaleb says his goal is to present the most trustworthy and likable version of himself, so he's selling himself on what he wants people to see, not just to this monster who's coming to destroy all the players in the game, which is true. He's been able to work the whole goal, and while he may look like a golden retriever on the outside, they should never let him in their home.
I love that.
I love him so much.
Oh, yeah.
He's, like, amazing. So he talks to Sifu and Drew.
He has some top tier confessionals in this episode.
I know. I love him. So he talks to Sifu and Drew that he's totally down if they're thinking to take out a Reba or a Bello. And then Emily asks Bruce how he's feeling game-wise, which he says he's fine physically. She tells him all he has to do is win. Bruce says nobody is talking to him, having a conversation with him, and talking strategy with him. They're not even having a personal one-on-one relationship conversation with him. So he asks Kendra if he's a pariah at this point in time, and she asks what that is, and he says it's someone who's just kind of not a part of what's going on, and she asks if no one has seriously talked to him, and he says he hasn't had a single conversation with anyone, not even Nabello. And he asks what Kaleb is doing, trying to run this using his slickness.
Yeah, and I mean, this is really surprising to me because, I mean, if you go back to Bruce when he like first started out on like Bello and things like that, I mean, he had like basically this cult like running around him. Like everyone wanted to know about his time on 44, and it seemed like he was going to do really well. I think that what we're seeing with Bruce is what we sometimes see with players like that is that he has one way of playing, which is like, I'm the guy in charge of everything. I'm always, making the calls. I'm always taking the shots. Like I'm always the one telling people what to do. That now him having to play a much more, having to like dial that down and play a different kind of game. He doesn't really know how to do that. And I think that is easily like Bruce's like biggest flaw in both of these episodes is that he's trying to do the same thing he's been doing all season, but it's no longer effective because people just aren't interested in working with him anymore.
Yeah, basically just because he's so direct and like so it can be a little frustrating to them. Yeah, but like as much as they love him.
Yeah. He's trying to play like Boston Rob, but instead he's playing like insert player here that was not Boston Rob.
Insert player here. That's the best player ever.
Whoever was on his season that wasn't Boston Rob that thought they had a shot and didn't make it. I don't know. I didn't fucking watch that season, but I'm trying to make an analogy and it didn't work. Allie, go ahead.
Been on quite a few seasons.
Yeah.
So Bruce sees what he's doing, floating around between everybody, and he's standing like the last kid being picked in the playground, twiddling his thumbs, waiting for someone to come talk to him, and nothing. He kills me.
I mean, I've been there in games. It sucks, but I've been there.
Yeah. So he asks Katurah why Bello hasn't talked as a group yet, and she says she thinks people are nervous to talk right now, but maybe his leadership will be enough to wrangle people, and he talks about how Kaleb is doing just that. And then Bruce says if they were all running a race, Reba is ahead, Bello hasn't even started. His gameplay was to sit back and just chill, and now he's got to switch gears a bit.
Yep.
He talks to Kaleb about how no one is talking or strategizing with him, and Kaleb says he's completely open with him, and Bruce tells him he's powerful right now and doesn't realize it and says he can't take his leadership role that he had in Bello and bring it here because everybody doesn't want to talk and it leaves Bello in a bad situation, but him in a great one. Getting to talk to whoever he wants to because it's just him and Emily.
Yeah, I think his mistake here is talking about how powerful he was at Bello. I think Kaleb would be more looking to work with him if Bruce says, like, I don't really feel like I'm in this great spot. I don't really feel like people are willing to talk to me. But instead he's like, oh, I can't be the leader. And it's like, okay, you have to be a little bit more proactive with that. And he's not. And I think that's his problem.
Oh, definitely. I completely agree.
Like, he's trying to replicate his positioning when he doesn't realize he needs to adapt and play a different kind of game, and he doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah. So Kaleb says Bruce is mad at him because he's having conversations with people that aren't Bello. He feels Bruce has a very archaic way of looking at the game, not wanting them to talk to enemy, and he thinks that's the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, it is really dumb.
It really is.
You should definitely not do that. I literally did that in like one of my first games, and it was horrible because I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't know where anybody stood, like on the other, like on the other group because of it. And because of that, I was just like completely on the outs. And that's basically, when you play that way, that's what you're doing. You're forcing yourself to be on the outs. And that's, don't do that. Bad strategy all around.
Definitely. It's like not good.
No.
So Bruce tells him if he wants Original Bello to do their thing together with him, then he will have to do serious damage control, and it will help both of them and Bello to pull one person in.
Yep.
Kaleb says he appreciates what he's saying, but he needs to keep it on the down low. And then Kaleb says if Bruce doesn't trust him, he doesn't trust Bruce, and it's that simple. So he talks to Kelly, who says Bruce isn't happy with him, thinking he's talking to too many people, and Kaleb is unsure what he's supposed to do. And she agrees that it very much matters what they tell Reva.
Yes, it does.
Yep. I will say Kelly's been killing it.
Oh, yeah. Kelly, I would say right now is probably my winner pick.
Oh, same. She's literally the person that's probably winning right now.
Yeah.
So Kelly says Bruce is someone that she has been working with this whole game, but he is a liability to play with and seems he truly can't help himself. And everyone on Bello is annoyed by him, and he has an idol, which makes him scary.
Yeah, exactly.
Kelly tells Kaleb she's so done with him, and he's really pissing her off, and Kaleb says he thinks he'll be so confident it'll be the perfect time to do something. And she says if he can get the number, she's down for it.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Kelly even doesn't want to work with Bruce anymore, it just really shows how much Bruce's position has crumbled. And I think a lot of that is due to Kaleb, but it's also due to just the way just the way Bruce has been talking to people, being like, don't talk to Bello, don't worry about Bello, we don't want to work with Bello. Like, it just, when you are telling people what to do in the game, you're basically alienating yourself. And unless people are like completely under your spell, like, you're going to end up alienating yourself. And that's exactly what Bruce did.
Yeah, definitely.
Because these people have more agency than that. They're not just going to like beg at his feet.
Oh, these people are chaotic.
Yeah.
So Kelly says she's over Bruce tired of him telling her what he wants to do or anyone. And at this point, she'd be fine with blindsiding Bruce and taking him out of the game.
Yeah, so let's get to the immunity challenge here, because this seemed to be a very, I mean, there's a lot of good setup here, and it seemed like we were heading for something really spicy. And then we get to this immunity challenge, and basically Jeff tells everyone tribal immunity is no more, but there's no individual immunity yet because they haven't made the individual phase. Once again, you have to earn the merge. I'm still not a fan of this twist. I wish they would just go right into the merge. I think it's a little silly that you have to like earn the merge. But the way they've been doing it like recently, I think is a lot better than what they were doing originally with like the hourglass and things like that. So I'll take it. It's not the worst.
Yeah, it's not the worst at all. Like, it's better than the hourglass.
I still think it's a little silly, but it's fine. So Jeff asked Jake how he views this state of limbo, which he says everyone's meeting new people and trying to get their ducks in a row. They show up and there's 13 damn fine ducks over there. Jeff then asks Katurah what the key is from a game point of view for the individual player, which she says to make as many connections as possible, since they literally have no idea what's going to happen. So we get to the challenge, and basically they're going to be divided into 2 groups of 6. On go, one player is going to crawl at a time into muddy net to a cart. Once everybody's at the cart, they're going to push the cart across the field, collecting very heavy sandbags along the way. They'll use those sandbags to get to the top of a tower. Once everybody's at the top, they'll retrieve a set of keys, slide down the other side, and then must work together to get to the top of a very big boulder. And then once they're at the top, 2 players will use those keys to unlock the pieces and solve the first part of their puzzle. 2 players will then solve the second. The first team to finish this challenge earns their merge buff, the merge meal, and immunity at tonight's first tribal council. So, as usual, there is an uneven number of players. So, the 13th person, they will not participate in the challenge. Instead, they're going to put their money as to which team will win, and that is where they will be placed. So, we get to the teams here. On Team Red, we have Kaleb, Jay, Jake, D, Emily, and Kelly. And then on Team Blue, we have Sifu, Drew, Bruce, Austin, Julie, and Kendra, which means Katurah is the only person without a team. So Jeff then asks Drew what he likes about his group and if he has a concern. Drew tells him that one of the things he loves about this group is the physicality, such as them having some of the strongest people within the game. But there's a 2-part puzzle down the line, and puzzles in Survivor are the great equalizer. He asks Kelly the same question, who says that there are a bunch of big dudes on the other team, but she's never been afraid of big dudes, and these are interesting groups, and it'll be a real doozy for Katurah to pick one. Her saying that really makes me feel like a woman is winning this season. I can feel it. I really feel like this is a strong group.
Hell yeah.
Especially after what's happened in 43 and 44. So Katurah then picks Blue, and ultimately this turns out to be correct because Blue does win immunity for this challenge, successfully transitioning into the merge, with Katurah also earning her way in, which let's talk about this because there were quite a few people on Blue here that I think could have easily been the merge boot. Bruce obviously being the most notable. I think he easily could have gone here. I think Sifu also was like a really big target. Even Austin, I think, could have potentially
I could have seen all of them for sure.
Well, I think Drew would have been fine. I think Kendra would have been okay.
I feel like the most obvious probably would have been Sifu if they just went easy.
No, I think Bruce was the most obvious based on how things are going.
I mean, Bruce is another one as well.
But basically that means now the only people eligible to be voted for are Kaleb, Jay, Jake, D, Emily, and Kelly, which I think was probably the most interesting group of people because I really didn't know who was going to go from this group.
Yeah, literally. It was a very interesting outcome.
So Jeff asked Kaleb what to do in a situation like this. He says that he's weirdly at peace, though they all sucked. He's been losing a lot out here along with Emily. They both fought as hard as they can, and now they have to go back and play the game. So Julie says she feels terrible that 6 are starving and not safe, but being safe tonight is huge. And if we do the numbers, the 7 at the feast can actually decide who goes home because who's going to risk throwing out a name. So we get to Blue here. Not a lot to talk about, obviously, because they're mostly just partaking in enjoying their feast and celebrating in making the merge. They all talk a little bit about the vote. Sifu brings up the possibility of targeting Jay, who Drew agrees needs to go. And Katurah is very surprised that Reba doesn't have a deep connection with her. Julie says that she wrote Sifu's name down at Tribal, and he thinks that she's just trying to slither up and cut other people's throats. So Julie talks about how while Sifu thinks Jay voted for him, it's actually D, but she's fine with Jay going home tonight because she feels she cut her if she has the chance. And I mean, I think this is genius. Like Sifu already basically, because what I was saying from the beginning is that they should just kind of frame Jay for it. And Sifu basically did that for them, where it was like, okay, he assumed that it was Jay. They went along with it. They've successfully framed her. I mean, really good work on D and Julie's part, because this could have been a really precarious position for D, but the fact that Jay took the fall for it and now they're just going along with it, I mean, I think it's just really great on their part all around. I think this is a very good move.
Oh, definitely. I thought it was like fantastic on their part.
Yeah, so Julie brings up how Kaleb and Emily are the only 2 Lulu left over from their original tribe. Kendra brings up how in her mind, Kaleb has always been a dangerous player, and from the beginning, she's had her eye on him, and that's where she stands. So Katurah feels that Emily isn't connected to Reba. She's firmly in the middle, and she's a safe vote, and Kendra says that Kaleb is a huge threat in the game. He's been talking to everyone. He's great at challenges, and Bruce agrees that he's seen a lot of gameplay from him and being very social, and he feels like it's his time. Kaleb's got to go here. And I mean, I was really upset to see this because Kaleb has been someone I've been a really big fan of. But this is a very big episode for Kaleb, and we'll get into why.
I know,
so
it's huge.
Katurah thought all of Bella was working with Kaleb. She doesn't understand why Kendra and Bruce are saying that he has to go. They trust him and like him. He's a good number for them. So she doesn't want to get rid of him and feels like they are blowing up their games and that their strategy is all messed up. As usual, Katurah is just very annoyed at her tribe, as she has been pretty much all season. I really feel like at this point, she's just going to fucking turn on Bella and probably just go the other direction, because it just never seems like she's on the same page with them. And I feel like we're going to see her make a very big shift in the game in the next couple episodes. And I'm very much here for it if she does, because I feel like that's kind of what she needs to do at this point.
Oh, I think so too. I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the perfect example of like, just because you have a starting tribe, it doesn't mean they have your best interests. And I don't think Bello has Katurah's best interests like at all right now. So
yeah, and also the tribal lines is usually like the most boring outcome too.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, we just had a season in 44 where everyone stuck with their tribal lines, and it was still fun to watch.
That's true, yeah.
Mainly due to how likable like the Tika 3 were and how much we like rooted for them. But I will agree, it is much more interesting when everybody is fluid. And I do feel like this is going to be a very fluid merge for sure, especially with everybody turning on each other. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and talk about what happens on the red team?
All right. Jake is freaking out as he hasn't been in tribal yet, and so he is feeling like he needs to stay. He needs to.
Yeah.
Like he needs
to. Oh, he needs to save himself.
Oh yeah, he needs to save himself. Jake tells J Maya he's going to be here tomorrow, and he wants her there as well. Which she says she wants them both to be there too. Jay tells him she thinks that Lulu should go home, Emily or Kaleb. So he tells her he likes Kaleb, which she does as well, but he's a physical and social threat.
Yeah, I mean, Jake is in a very interesting position here where it's like he hasn't gone to tribal yet. He doesn't really know where the bonds are. And he also has a much different agenda from a lot of other people. And I don't know how that's going to end up for Jake. I will say I'm liking Jake a lot more in these last two episodes.
He's been like killing it like the last like couple episodes.
Yeah, I just don't know how long he is in for this game, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Jay says Kaleb has been the smiliest guy on Survivor. He's working really hard to charm everyone that he speaks to, which puts you on high alert. She brings up his name because in her head he's a good, safe vote. She knows her Reba tribe mates have her back, and they have the numbers, so that's how tonight's going to go.
Yep, and I mean, this is really smart because, like, this is exactly, I talked about this, like, 2 episodes ago. Like, this is what Kaleb is so good at. He can just charm his way in with people that had no interest of working with him, and now suddenly they all want to work with him. He's been doing that pretty much all season, and the fact that people are clocking it, I mean, 1, it shows how perceptive and, like, smart this group is. 2, I mean, it's obviously not great for Kaleb because he's been, doing very well, and now it's really starting to haunt him, which I don't think was something that I was really like prepared for. I didn't think that this would come to haunt him already, but people are already seeing through it.
Oh, definitely. So Jay tells Dee she thinks it's good to project Reba strong right now since people are scared of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dee asks Jake who he'd choose if he had to choose someone, which his trepidation is throwing on a name, and he can't give all the cards away. She tells him she's a bit more open than he is, and she tells him the name she wants is Jay, in which he's shocked by, but he's down for whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Jake expected Reba to target each other, but that's what's happening right now.
Yep. So Dee says voting off Jay isn't going to burn any bridges as she wasn't a part of the Reba alliance with the 4 of them, so it has to be her.
Mm-hmm.
She talks to Kaleb, who is pretty surprised, thinking the girls were close.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought that too, considering that like they seem to have a close bond. But again, I think it really just came down to that rogue vote on Sifu and having to frame somebody for it, and Jay basically taking the fall for it. It's like, okay, if she's gonna do that, then we're just gonna push it.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, she's expendable now.
Well, I mean, Dee and Julie weren't gonna turn on each other, so
yeah, for sure.
They didn't really have a choice.
Yeah. So Jake talks to Kelly about it, who is surprised that there's a lot of animosity there. Kelly thinks this is perfect because if Jay is taken out, they are knocking down the traditional Reba numbers, and if they do vote for her out, vote her out now. Her and Austin have upgraded the level of their amulet, but at this stage of the game, there's so many people, it's very hard to tell where everyone stands. Because everyone has a decision at the merge phase with people who would never work together, as she doesn't think they'd all come together for consensus decision.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
The blue team comes back and settles in with them after rinsing off in the mud. Kaleb says that as they're washing off the mud, they're all sitting in there like cattle waiting to see who will get picked off, and as that side has all the power.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, they've all kind of decided, like, it's got to be Kaleb, but the other half has decided it's got to be Jay. So this was very exciting to see, like, who was actually going to get traction here, considering both groups were on completely different pages for the most part.
Mm-hmm. So Katurah talks to her alliance with Kendra and Kelly that her side wants Jay or Kaleb, and Kelly brings up how they've been talking about Jay, and she lets them know Reba is also okay with that. And Kelly throws out Kaleb, and Kendra says he's been on her radar from the beginning, and Katurah says she doesn't want them to lose Kaleb just yet. She tells them Kaleb is Bella strong right now, and they need a Reba girl to go home, which Kelly agrees with, and Kendra says Bruce made it seem difficult, and Katurah says Bruce is stupid.
Yeah.
That was funny. She goes to Bruce and asks who he's voting, and he says Kaleb is because he's going and she can't vote the same way, and she says it's part of the plan. She's voting Jay, and it will stay that way. Bruce doesn't understand
so it
why.
Seems like she's pretty locked on Jay at this point.
Yeah. Bruce doesn't understand why she doesn't want to vote Kaleb because he's dangerous. He's like a butterfly flying around. He feels he's bouncing back and forth, and he's got to go. And to him, tribal lines are dead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why Bruce wants to go for Kaleb. I understand kind of why he wants to, because Kaleb, like, stole his positioning, basically, and he's kind of, like, he's in this power position now, and he wants Kaleb to go because of it. But I feel like it makes more sense for Bruce to team up with Kaleb here, considering that Kaleb wasn't going to come for Bruce. And I think if he would have been willing to, I think if Bruce would be willing to change his gameplay around a little bit, I think he'd be in a better spot. But I think the fact that he, again, just still wants to be, like, so domineering in that way, yeah. I think that's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So he talks to Jake about how hard he's playing, and Drew agrees with this, and he's elated by this, knowing Bella is voting with him and doesn't care what happens. He talks to Austin and Sifu and says that Bruce is feeling very vulnerable, and he thinks Kaleb is the better strategic play. And Sifu says he wants Jay gone, and Austin says she took his sandwich, so he doesn't mind her going, and Drew says if they can keep the Rebas, especially one that has nowhere else to go, it helps them in the long run with its numbers.
I'm just imagining, like, you're just, like, pitching a name, and all you say is, well, she took my sandwich, so she has to go.
Oh, it's so funny. Austin feels
like you all just come together because of a sandwich, and you make, like, the sandwich alliance.
Oh my God.
It'd be so good. I need to see that happen.
I highly doubt that's going to happen, though. But that would be so funny if that's, like, a thing on, like, another season.
They should just call an alliance Austin Sandwich.
Honestly, please. That'd be so good.
It'd be so good. Please do that.
So Austin feels the vote shouldn't split, and Drew agrees that they go 100% in on him. Austin says he absolutely wants Jo, as she prevented him from having a sandwich, and he has had it for her ever since, but getting rid of her is sacrificing a number. But what makes sense most is to vote off Kaleb. They need the blind side, and the more votes going to him is easier. But the easier it is for him to sacrifice his vote again to upgrade his idol. So Drew talks to Emily and Dee how the votes need to be on Kaleb. And Drew says Bruce opens and says Kaleb is the right pick. He is elated because his fear in voting Kaleb was that you could be kicking the Bellow's hornet's nest, and they could all come right after you stinging. But now he can kick the hornet's nest all day, and they're with him, and they don't care.
Yep.
Drew tells Sifu and Austin that Bruce is feeling very vulnerable, and he thinks Kaleb is the better strategic play. Sifu bluntly tells them he wants Jake on, which Austin says she took his sandwich, so he doesn't mind. So he doesn't mind her going. Take a shot every time.
Again, every time it's just, oh, she took my sandwich.
Every
so
time,
gotta go.
Every time Austin says she took my sandwich, take a shot.
Yeah, no, literally, that's like his only basis for her going, which I just think is so funny.
That's kind of his MO.
Yeah. Again, Austin sandwich, make it happen.
Please. So Drew says if they can keep the Rebas,
like just have Austin, Drew, Dee, and Julie just like team up, but now they're called Austin Sandwich. That should be the name of their alliance.
Oh, so good. So Austin feels they shouldn't split, which Drew says they go in there and vote 100% on Kaleb. And then Austin says he absolutely... Oh, wait. Sorry, where was I? Austin says he absolutely wants Jay out because she prevented him from getting a sandwich, and ever since then, he's had it out for her. But getting rid of her means they're kind of sacrificing a number. Jay tells Austin, Sifu, and Drew she has all of their backs. Which, poor sweet Jay Maya.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's so unsure, like, what's actually happening here.
I know. Drew then tells Austin, Sifu, and Kaleb they just vote Jay and keep it simple. Then Austin says they need the blind side of Kaleb, and the more votes that are going for him, the easier it is for him to sacrifice his vote again to upgrade his idol. And then Emily is heartbroken the vote is going on to Kaleb because she doesn't want to send him out, as he's effectively her number one ally and would be sacrificing a significant portion of her game. She's between a rock and a hard place and needs to keep her relationships with the old Reba tribe So if she fights Drew hard, and then they see her fighting as Kaleb as opposed to them, but he saved her in the past. She needs him here and needs to convince people they need him here as well. But it may be out of her control, and voting against what the majority is doing will put a target on her back even more so than it already has.
Yeah, and again, this is another example of like how much better Emily has improved as a game player. I feel like if this was like week 2 in the game, like she would be fighting hard for Kaleb here, and she'd probably end up going as a result because she fought too hard. But now she's in a position where she doesn't need Kaleb. She has Drew and Austin. She has, Bello that still wants work. Like she has other options, and she's kind of realizing like if she were to fight too hard for Kaleb, she's limiting her options. So I think again, this is just another example of just how much Emily has improved her positioning.
Oh, definitely. Like she's honestly like just killing it right now.
Yeah.
So Emily talks to Austin and Jay about him possibly playing a shot in the dark, and Austin says they need to convince him the votes aren't on him. Emily then immediately goes to Kaleb and tells him the votes are strongly against him, and she wants him to have the chance to save himself somehow, and he mentions voting Bruce, and she says he's 100% voting for him and doesn't like him at all.
I love that she's just immediately like running back to him. Like she's really just playing all sides at this point.
It's so good. Kaleb says he came here to play a strategic game, trying to lower his threat level, and now they're coming after him. He pushes to them that Bruce has an idol and wants to round up the Rebas to get rid of Jay and also make it seem like he's not working with Bello.
Yeah, Bruce, which I mean, he hasn't done a great job in doing that, but yes.
I know, he really has.
It's not necessarily, I will say, not necessarily his fault. Bello's the one who keeps pushing it, but yeah.
True. So Bruce simultaneously is talking to Jake and Katurah that what they had at Lulu Beach is done. They need to vote with the masses and vote for Kaleb.
Yep.
So Kaleb says selling himself and selling his case is something he's not unfamiliar with in sales, but people condense desperation, and he's bleeding at this point with it. His life is completely on the line. He has to vote. He has to vote until the numbers go his way in his life. His life is completely on the line. He has to hope the numbers go his way, and he needs a group to work with because he can't work with the vigilantes because he's not Batman. He's Kaleb. He's the Canadian.
It's so good. I love that was the episode quote because like that was so good.
I love that so much.
And all of this leads, you know, all of these seeds that were sown throughout the episode with Jay and Kaleb and Bruce as well leads to easily a top tier tribal council. Like listen, episode 3 was crazy. This is the kind of tribal council that, like, we hope for every single episode. Like, this was so exciting to watch.
It's so good.
So Jeff starts out by asking Dee how much information was shared, and he says that there was sharing of any and all kind and too much. He felt like a nerd, asked Drew, not Dee, felt like a nerd that walked into a frat party where everyone's so extrovert and outgoing, but the line needs to be straddled because he's not sure if he's Lulu, Bello, or Reba, so that uncertainty is a big thing to chew off. So Emily talks about her beef with Bruce and thinks it's squashed, but jokingly says that we'll see if he writes her name down tonight. I thought that was pretty funny. It doesn't seem to be a relevant narrative, but Emily's name wasn't out there this round. So maybe if it is, we'll start to see that a bit more. So Jay talks about how hard it is to separate the want to know people versus the need. And she talks about how overwhelming yesterday was, as she's been with Reba since the beginning of this game and now needs to decide quickly who she vibes with and reads well, and then have a ton of time and then none at all. So Sifu says that they have all at office hours today, checking in with everyone. Kendra agrees with this, and Julie says that there was a lot of non-office hours. So Emily says that she doesn't feel that fully paints the picture because the 6 of them have been sitting there for a couple of hours wondering what they can do to save themselves. Emily still being the contrarian that she is. So Katurah feels it's inevitable. All their names could be written down, and she can't even fathom the idea that her name would be, and she got lucky today because it could have been her sitting over there. So Kaleb says he's an optimist. He wants to work with people, but when his name gets thrown out, hold on one second.
That's okay.
There we go. He has to think about how he can be safe, but also that he's a big threat. But the biggest strategic threat, and he brings up how his name is out there, and it wouldn't be a tribal council if he did. And I will say, I love Kaleb. He does not do himself any favors with what he says here. Like this was not great at all. He talks about how when he reaches the low, he gets happiness for everything he does get. Every single person he does get to connect to. And so the Lulu curse has not lifted off him and Emily, but knowing they gave it their best effort, that's when they can be at peace. Emily says that she's unsure that it is a curse, but 7 of them are wearing buffs and tribe dynamics aren't relevant anymore. It's an individual game, and if there is a curse, it ends tonight, which, yeah, I mean, there is no more Blue the Curse. There's literally 2 people left in the game. So Jay talks about how they all have to go with the people she knows. She's built connections with because tomorrow she may still be here, but have burned those bridges in the process. And this is where things get really exciting with what Caleb says here. Which again, like I said, he does not do himself like any favors in this what he says here. He says that he may be the biggest threat, but he doesn't think he's the biggest strategic threat. And he literally tells them that it makes sense for everyone to write down Jay's name. She asks what he means by that, and he says he thinks a lot of people have talked about him as a physical and social threat, but he thinks the most dangerous thing is the fact that there's a block of 3 Reba women that have been together for 13 days, and she thinks for Dee and Julie that there's an opportunity to let go of Jay. It will lower their threat level a ton. And in addition to everyone else, if they're moving into a tribe of 12, that's 3 votes that they would already have, and anyone can go home, and they've lost a lot of power. And listen, I get what Kaleb is trying to do here, but I don't think he realizes like how bad this is for him. He's already being portrayed as this like Machiavellian type presence where basically
it wasn't exactly good for him, but it was entertaining.
Yeah, like he's already being portrayed as this person that just gets people to do what he wants. And he's basically telling them to do that here. He's like, I think it makes sense for us as a tribe to vote out Jay, pick off Dee and Julie, which I mean, he completely loses Dee and Julie here. There is zero chance they're not going to vote for him here. Like this was not great at all. It was very fun to watch, but my God, it was very messy. So basically, she asked if he wants to mention any other threats while he's at it, and he says that he's comfortable with what he said. And I really love like the back and forth between him and Jay here. I like that Jay was not silent during this. It made it so much more exciting. And he says he's comfortable with what he said, and she asks if they all see what he's doing before they cast votes, and he's a self-admitted biggest threat in the game. He says not strategically. If he goes into the next round, he has nothing. He's by himself and can't do anything to change the course of the game. Diaz, how they can trust him if he's sitting by himself and trying to find a home. And of course, she feels strongly about it because she heard her name. And while she respects it, and he says she was planning to vote for him, and Jay says that she wants to remind everyone that this is an individual game and this is a player that was losing and is still sitting here. And if they think he's not going to be a threat to their game, she can't imagine that. And he says that he has said Jay's name, but he has to say a name. And again, my God, I just love this back and forth between them. It was so exciting to watch. Drew talks about how they all love the game. There's been some big swings here, but he thinks he and everyone else are excited and to see if they were home runs or strikeouts. And then, of course, after a very intense tribal council, we do get to the votes. And Kaleb literally shouts Jay's name out to everybody as he's going to vote, which I thought was just like the cherry on top. Like, this was already so intense to watch, but him literally telling all of them to vote for Jay, like, as he's going to vote, like, my God, we need this level of chaos, like every tribal. This was so good.
Please, like, this is such a top tier tribal that, like,
yeah,
I think it's gonna go down in history for like the new era.
Yeah, so Austin does decide to not vote, to actually extend his steal a vote to a fully fledged idol, which is smart. You know, he's reckoned, like, unlike Sabiyah not doing it, it makes sense for Austin to not do that here. His name is not out there. He's safe, so, you know, there's no reason for that. But then after all the votes are tallied, you know, this already is a very exciting tribal. Then things get even more exciting with what ends up happening next, because Kaleb stands up and he has one more thing he's going to try, his last punch, and that is to try to play his shot in the dark. So let's talk about the shot in the dark for a second. I have not been a huge fan of it in previous seasons. I've been saying the shot in the dark is a death sentence. It doesn't work out. It's never going to be safe. It's never going to work out for you. The only time we have seen it safe was when Jamie played it last season, and apparently her name was actually out there a lot, so it made sense for her to play it then. We just didn't see it on the episode. Definitely. But she only received one vote, so it was not an effective play. That does not hold a candle to what happens here. This pretty much changes the entire perception of a shot in the dark just through one word, because Jeff opens his shot in the dark and it turns out to be safe, and it shocks literally everybody. And
it was so,
my God,
freaking priceless. It was just like, I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, this was so exciting to watch because, like I said, prior to this, shot in the dark, not really something I've been a big fan of. Here, we really see how powerful it can be when it's actually effective. And Jeff then reads the votes, and all of them turn out to be for Kaleb, which is insane.
Except for obviously no Austin vote, because he didn't have a vote.
Yeah, so this means they all must re-vote aside from Kaleb, of course, who voted for Jay. So they all are scrambling. They're whispering about what to do. And I mean, Allie, just your reaction to when this happened with Kaleb playing the shot in the dark and it being effective, and everyone's reaction. I mean, what did you think about this?
Oh, I like absolutely love this so much. I've never actually hated the shot in the dark. I was like more so sad that like it never worked out.
Yeah. I just found it to be kind of unnecessary. Like, some people play like a last-ditch effort.
Well, like this, after his like back and forth with Jay and everything, like him like being safe, that was gold.
Yeah, I mean, basically it is just as strong as an idol when it's played correctly. The thing is just we haven't seen it played correctly up to this point. I think what we've been seeing most of the time is people saying they're going to play their shot in the dark, and that ends up making it so people vote for them and things like that. I think it was very wise of Kaleb to not announce he's playing it until they have already gone to vote. When every other time people have played it, it's been before they went to vote. I think it was good that he played it after. It's so much more exciting that way.
For sure.
So now they're all scrambling. They're not sure what to do. We see a few moments of strategy where Jay talks to Katurah about wanting to vote out Emily, and she asks if they have the numbers for that, and Jay assures her that they can. Emily asks Bruce if she can trust him. He says that she can, and he whispers Jay to her. And Jay is like really continuing to push for Emily, who's going to Austin, asking if she's pushing her. He says if people were telling her Jay, that's what it is. And I will say, I felt really bad for Jay here, where like she's trying so hard to push for Emily, and literally everybody's just pushing her name. Like it was
so
very
like Jay's just so sweet too. I just felt so bad for her. Like I have such a soft spot for her.
I feel like Jay, we really saw in this episode, like had a real fire and had a real like axe to grind. And I think that if you know, what Kaleb didn't do happened, I think she honestly could have lasted a lot longer in this game. But we do get to this point. Before we do get to the vote, Kaleb does joke that finally for once in the game goes in his direction, which everyone laughs at. I thought that was a really funny moment.
That was funny.
But then it's time to revote. And after an absolutely insane tribal council, it actually turns out to be a 10-1 with Jay going out. She becomes the merge boot. And as she leaves, congratulates them officially on making the merge. And yeah, Jay going here, not too surprising considering she was the name that they were pushing. But we get to her retrospective where she talks about how it was a unanimous vote for Kaleb. He got saved by his shot in the dark. She was just collateral damage on the revote. However upsetting it is pretty wild. It was the greatest adventure of her life. There are no regrets here, just smiles. She's happy she got to come out here and play a great game. And I mean, just what an exciting way to end such an insane merge episode. I am going to turn to you though, because I know Jay was like someone we were really rooting for preseason. What did you think of Jay in the game overall?
I mean, obviously, like she was one of her and like Katurah were like our winner picks early on.
I took Jay from you. I did.
Preseason. Yeah, literally, like she like gave such vibes that she was gonna run her tribe, but that was not the case. Like she ended up being at the bottom, kind of. Well, her and Sifu at the bottom of her original tribe. And then obviously, in a way, it kind of screwed her over by saying that by like taking the blame for Dee's vote. So it kind of screwed her over. She could have, if she was just honest with Sifu, he probably wouldn't have targeted her. Like if she just said, "Yeah, Dee did it," yeah. But she was still like she played very well. Like early on, obviously, first few episodes she was kind of purpled, but I mean, then she finally got more. So she definitely did play a really fun game, really good game. I know, like I wish like the amulets got to last longer for like both of all those three. That would have been spicy, but
don't take Austin sandwich, you know.
True, but she was still like she was still really great to watch, really fun to watch. I feel like if she comes back, she'll probably kill it even more, like as second chances or something. And who knows, maybe she'll come back and win. But I'm still very proud of her. She still got to the merge, and obviously go support her music.
Oh yeah, definitely support her music. She is fantastic at what she does. Listen to Slow Burn, especially. It's a great song. I've been listening to it constantly. But yeah, Jay, I mean, did not play the way I thought she was going to. I thought she was going to come in and just absolutely dominate Reba and be in such a great spot. And unfortunately, that's not what happened. I think Jay is the perfect example of just not being able to get in with people soon enough. You know, once that 4 was made with like Drew and Austin and Dee and Julie, nobody else really had a chance on Reba. It was only a matter of time before her or Sifu ended up going. So I'm not too surprised to see her go here. I do think she had a chance if she got past this vote, but unfortunately that was not the case. I think the two things that really brought her game down, one was her taking the fall for the vote for Sifu. I think she absolutely should have just told him it wasn't her and say that it was Dee, but she was so loyal to her group. Like she just didn't want to turn on them. She didn't want to plant any seeds. And I think that's absolutely what hurt her, is that she didn't realize
she like planted more seeds too. Like definitely.
Yeah. She didn't realize all the work that Dee and Julie were doing against her. And, you know, there wasn't much she could do there. That coupled with her taking Austin's sandwich, you know, She just
That's
was
so
not
good.
able to. She just was not able to fully find her footing. And again, I think she would have been able to if she got past this vote. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Jay does end up going here. I think honestly though, really exciting merge boot. Like the fight she had with Kaleb, just everything leading up to that was so good. Kaleb, us thinking he's gone, and then him playing a shot in the dark, canceling out literally every single vote, which we did forget to mention. Kaleb now does hold the record for the most votes counted against him that didn't count. Kelly Wentworth no longer holds that title, which I think is very exciting.
That's like so impressive and so cool.
Yeah, I didn't think that record would ever be broken, but Kaleb has broken it. So, very exciting. But yeah, all around, such an exciting merge episode. I really just can't praise it enough. And yeah, should we stop here for now and then talk about episode 7 later?
I mean, we could, because I know we have something to do pretty soon.
Yeah, so we'll come back and talk about episode 7 a little later. But other than that,
we have something to do for an org that he's hosting.
Yes.
So we're probably just gonna like come back and go live for the rest of it.
Yeah, we'll come back after. We'll see you guys then. All right, bye.
Bye.